5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Good morning, everybody. This is the Thrill of the Chase podcast brought to you by Wagner&Woolf Elite College Sports Recruitment. I'm Harrison Devonish-Mears, professional athlete and college recruiter. With me is Maddison Ricardo, who is a freshman at the University of Southern Mississippi. How's it going, Maddie?
Yeah, good. You?
I'm very good. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. We've spent a lot of time on the phone. I knew you were going to be a good fit for college. I just thought you had such a nice, infectious energy. You're so bright and positive all the time. I just thought that you would sort of settle in and make friends wherever you went. You've ended up at Southern Miss. You've just finished your first semester abroad. How did you settle in? Was it as you expected?
It was pretty crazy. Going in January, it was like mid-semester, like everyone had kind of already found their ways, knew what they were doing. I went into classes and like everyone seemed like they were halfway through the year already. And for me, it was like new beginning. Everything was new. Coming from Australia to America, it was completely different. Like it was nothing like high school. So I think with the school factor, it definitely took a lot to adjust, just with the workload and then managing training on top of that and trying to then on top of that make friends in a completely new country. But I think my team were awesome. They just made me feel so welcome and they helped me with everything, and the whole university over there is so supportive of student athletes. They get it. They get that you're juggling two things at once, and I feel like I was very heavily supported, and that helped a lot.
That's great. Why don't we start with your juniors career a little bit? So you grew up on the Gold Coast, and I know you built some really strong relationships there with KDV Sports Tennis Academy. And at what point did you start thinking about taking your tennis to America?
I was actually really young. Everyone was like, oh, I'm going to win Wimbledon. And like at 8 years old, I was like, oh, I'm going to college in America. So I was pretty young when I considered it. I had a few coaches that had been over and come back and they loved it. And I was like, okay, well, they love it. Like, why wouldn't I? And so that was kind of like, and growing up watching TV shows with the cheerleaders and the football matches, I was like, oh yeah, I so want to do that. So that was kind of where it all started. So I was quite young, because normally like college is kind of a last minute decision, I feel, for most athletes. And for me, it was kind of like I always wanted that pathway.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, as a college recruiter, it is quite a last minute decision, which doesn't really help. I'm trying to get kids in now sort of 2 years ahead of when they're actually going to go, just so, we can really find the right fit. But you were actually one of my very first clients. I don't know if you know that. I was sifting through the Australian juniors rankings and results, and I was looking for players who might be a good fit for college. And you must have got an Instagram message from me. You have no idea who I am. So what are you thinking? What are you thinking at that point? And what made you come on board and let me manage your recruitment?
Well, it was kind of like I always wanted to go to college, but I'd always found that it was so tough, the pathways to get there. Like there was no really easy route. And if there was going to be an easy route, it was going to cost me minimum 10, 15K to get someone to help me. And I was like, goodness, like that's a lot of money and I wanted to know myself, like, well, what am I actually paying for? So then when I would go behind and actually I was trying to do it myself. Like when I saw your Instagram message, I was like, oh, I'll take anyone's help. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm no expert at all. So I was like, if there's someone willing to like help me out to get to where I want to be, I'm not going to decline their message or like not be open-minded about it. And it was the best decision ever. It got me where I am today.
Yeah, totally. I feel like we just clicked straight away, and it was so easy for us to work together. And I mean, that leads really well into what I want to talk about next, which is your recruitment, because that was a little bit crazy too. So it's around November, and I remember we were planning on you going in August, so we still had sort of 8 months to go. And we're taking meetings with coaches. I'm emailing, blah, blah. I get a call from Southern Mississippi coach, Steve Schramm, and he basically made a full scholarship offer for you on the spot to come in January, which was in like 2 months' time, less than 2 months' time. Talk to me a bit about that from your perspective.
Well, I'm going to be honest, Southern Mississippi isn't a place you go, yep, that's my dream spot. Like, Southern Mississippi, like, it's not the first place. You know, you think Cali, you think New York, you think all these other places first. And it was kind of like, you know, 2 months is like such a quick turnaround. I'd finished high school, I had a month off, and then I was back into school in the States. Like, it's crazy to think now. But I think it was more like I was reaching out to a lot of colleges, and I was getting a lot of the message bounce back because of COVID year and all of that stuff. So it made it quite tough for me to like have the confidence that I was going to get what I wanted, and what I wanted was a full scholarship at a D1 school. And especially like having COVID not only put on that extra year for the seniors, so there was less opportunity for freshmen, it was also like I hadn't been playing much either. So like my ranking was nowhere near where it needed to be. I hadn't played many matches to prove to coaches that, you know, I was at that level. So it was kind of more like I got an opportunity, why not just jump at it, because you don't know what's next, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And I think I sort of advised you at the time that it was a good sort of tennis program. It was a really solid Division 1 tennis program. So I think it's just important to get in and you know, have your first experience, and then sort of you can do whatever you want after that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like now looking at it, it's like I love Southern Miss. Like, it's such a beautiful campus. Like, the people there are amazing. Like, you can't really, you look at other colleges and there's always something. There's always like, oh, your team doesn't get along, or your coach is bad, or campus is terrible, it's not safe to go outside of campus. Like, everything at Southern Miss is like what I wanted, and I don't think I would have backed myself if you didn't give me that advice. I definitely like took your advice and thought about it, and I was like, no, like I have to trust you coming from a college yourself and all of that. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it is, because, you know, a lot of recruits come in and they think, oh, I either want to go to California or, you know, around New York, and that's it, you know. But you have so much in between there, and obviously, you know, some are hit and miss, right? But if you're working with someone that is experienced and knows what they're talking about and does their research, then you've got a very good chance of having a really good experience. I mean, I remember I did background checks on the coaching staff on in my network, and who knew the coaches and ex-players that had come through there as well. And they all said good things about the program. So, you know, I was very confident that it was going to be a good fit. And I remember one of the other schools that was interested in you was Fresno. And because it was in California, like, you were really like, oh, I want to go to there, I want to go there. Yeah. But what people don't realize is, like, Fresno is like not a really nice part of California. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, I've heard some pretty bad stories from people who have gone to school there. So I'm happy that you trust me, and I'm really happy that you're having a good experience. But let's move on. So when you moved over there, you were still 17. How was it adjusting to college life, living on your own in a new country? So, you know, are you cooking for yourself, or are you more going to the cafeteria? Who are you living with? Are you living on campus? Talk to me a little bit about, you know, your living situation as well.
Being 17, moving halfway across the world from my parents and my whole entire family, I had nobody in America that I knew. Like, it was crazy. It was definitely a big adjustment, and it was like a big step where I was like, okay, I have to put on my big girl pants now. But yeah, I was in the cafeteria for most of the nights. But then, like, obviously when we'd go away, we'd get food, and then like towards the end, I started to go out more with the team for food, which was really cool. And yeah, moving in with a roommate literally a meter from your bed and sleeping next to a completely total stranger was definitely a weird experience, but it turned out like she's one of my best friends now. Like, I've never gotten along with someone better. So that was pretty crazy to have that type of experience, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Like, it was awesome.
And are you planning on moving off campus next semester, or are you going to stay on campus for another semester?
I'm going to stay on campus for another probably year, so this semester and next semester, just because it's so easy. Like, I can just pack up my dorm and leave and then come back. And whereas I found a lot of people who move off campus, they have to get a storage shed, they have to find furniture, all the rest of it, and it was just too much of a hassle for when I just wanted to come back home or even to go on holiday. It's just so much easier.
Yeah, I totally get that. I was one of the storage unit furniture guys. And, I mean, that was also a great experience in itself. But, as a freshman, you're still trying to come to terms with your surroundings, and you're still trying to, really gain experience on the court as well. So I think there's nothing wrong with making life as simple as possible for you at this stage. What are your impressions of the atmosphere around the university? You obviously haven't experienced college football yet, but that will be coming, and I'm sure you're hearing a lot about that. But what's the campus life like? What do you get up to in your spare time?
Campus life is pretty cool. My campus is absolutely beautiful. Like, it is so stunning. It literally gobsmacked me when I got there, because I feel like in Australia we just have nothing like it. Like, even the prettiest universities here don't even compare. And yeah, when we kind of had our downtime, we had the Pain Centre, which was like a massive gym, running, whatever, swimming pool, all the rest of table tennis. Kind of just hung out there with the team, or we would go and watch a movie, stuff like that. But really, on our downtime during semester and season, it was like literally train, then study, then sleep. And it was so funny because the whole how busy you get, you don't realize how tired you get. So me and my roommate would literally put in a routine nap an hour a day, because we would be so tired. That's what you do in your downtime. We'd be like, yep, nap straight there. So it's pretty funny to think that I'm living in America, there's so much to do, and all I can think about is a nap. But that's seriously how tired you get when you're so busy.
Yeah, and things are moving so quickly, and it's so true. You really don't realize how much you're doing and how tired you are. And I remember after 3 years in the US, I became a professional athlete, and so we were training in the morning. Sometimes we would have a double session, but only in preseason. So most of the year we train in the morning and we have the afternoons free. And coming to terms with the fact that I had so much free time was almost like an identity crisis for me. And, that's basically why I started working in Wagner&Woolf and doing all this college recruiting in my spare time, because I just got used to being so efficient with my time. And while we're on that, what does a regular day for you look like? A regular Wednesday, you wake up in the morning from when you go to sleep, in sort of as quickly as you can. Well, just talk us through it.
Yeah, so you'd wake up, we'd get up at 6:45 as late as possible, and literally get changed in 5 minutes and walk to the gym, which was a 5-minute walk. And then we do gym for an hour, 7 till 8, and then I'd have class at 8. So I'd have to be walking out of the gym by 7:55 to class, which was around the corner. And then I'd have class from 8 till 9:15, and then I'd have another class 9:30 till 10:45, have a break from 10:45 through to 12, and then I'd go meet everyone for lunch at 12 at the cafeteria. Then I'd have another class 1 till sort of 2:15, depending on when the professor wanted to end the class. And then straight from that class I'd walk to training, which was a 15-20 minute walk to the courts. And then we'd start training by 2:30. Train for 2-3 hours. By the time we finished that, walk back, we'd have our showers, go straight to the cafe for dinner, and then come back to our dorms and study.
Wow, nice. And how about the tennis? So you're playing in the NCAA Division 1. It's a high pressure environment. There's lots of travel. Your opponents are from all over the world. How does the tennis compare to the level back in Australia?
The big thing that I've noticed compared to Australia to college tennis is that at college, everybody wants to win. There's no nobody really doesn't care. You've got the pressure of the coach, the team. You want to win at all costs, really. So that's the thing that I noticed, is that I could be winning fairly easy and they'd still be on my tail. I still want to win this match. There's no giving up. Till the very last point, they're still in the match. And that's a massive thing that I think changed my game, was always kind of maintaining the pressure on them, because as soon as you let that pressure go, they're like back on top wanting to win type thing.
Yeah. Wow. That's seems like a really good learning experience for you.
Yeah. And the level it's great. Like, I mean, it's way more consistent, way more balls in the court, longer rallies. Like, I understand why college people come back. They're fitter, stronger, and move their feet so quick, because it's just the level over there.
Right. And, we focused a lot on sort of highlights so far, but how about some of the sort of the lower moments for you this semester? So like looking back, what has been, a lower point or a tough challenge that you've had to overcome since moving to the US?
It was definitely tough, obviously, saying goodbye to my parents. They came over with me, saw the college, everything. That was definitely a tough moment. But I think the toughest moment was probably I got my third COVID shot while I was over there. And I was like, I got pretty bad side effects and I was pretty sick. And just being like in the same room as someone else, like while you're sick, it's the worst thing ever, because you just want your own space. You just want to die alone, and not having my mum there, not having anybody there to look after me. Like, you just have to deal with it yourself. That was kind of like a huge shock to me, because I'd never had to experience that. And, it feels like the world's ending when it's happening, but then you realise, oh, it's actually not that bad. Like, you just have to deal with it yourself. And, mum's just a phone call away. All the team were there for me if I needed them. It wasn't as bad as everyone thinks. Like, I feel like a lot of people have low moments at college, and everyone does. Everyone gets homesick. But it's the resilience of bouncing back from them rather than just folding and being like, oh, I'm going to come home. It's too hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And how was the medical care for you?
It was great. We have Moffat Health Centre, which is like a doctor's on campus. Literally, it was right outside my dorm, and I could go there whenever I wanted. I went there when I did have troubles with the side effects, but yeah, they've been great. Like, you can book in whenever. It's so helpful.
That's great. So that sort of brings us to the present day. You're on summer vacation now. You have 3 months break, or you had sort of 3 months break. It's almost over now. So talk me through what you've been up to in your sort of longer break, your longer vacation.
I've got to say, coming home, I felt very lost. I did not know what to do with myself. Like an 18-year-old, like my brother's at school, parents are at work. I feel so used. All my friends have full-time jobs now, everything, and I'm just like, oh, I've got nothing to do. I don't have schoolwork, I don't have work, nothing. So you definitely feel a bit lost, like, oh, what do I do with myself? And it definitely took me ages to get back on my feet. But as soon as I did, I like threw myself headfirst into training and just getting fitter across the summer. And then so far this past month, I've played 2 15K pro events. And at the moment I'm currently playing a UTR pro that's happening here. So I've just kind of been throwing myself into my tennis, trying to keep busy and maintain the level.
Cool. More tennis. Love that. Good luck for your tournament. So this podcast is called The Thrill of the Chase. And to me, that describes the pursuit of a goal or a purpose in your life. But more importantly than that, it alludes to the love of the journey itself. I feel like we've covered your journey quite a bit already, so I'd like to ask what your ambitions are for the future. What is your goal for the next year in college, and how about after college or even after tennis?
So college, I'm just like, for the next year, I just want to really enjoy it. I feel like sometimes you get so stuck up in like what is happening, you actually forget to enjoy it. So that's like my biggest thing, and I want to make the most of the opportunities. Like some of my teammates live in Europe and they're like, come stay with me, and I'm like, oh, I want to go home. But it's like, I should just take those opportunities and just go to Europe while I can. I have free accommodation there, like just make the most of the opportunities that are popping up. That's probably like the next year. Then like with college, it's just more like, it's like a stepping stone with my tennis. You know, it builds my game and everything, as well as getting a uni degree to kind of have that as a fallback. You know, you're always one injury away from never being able to pick up a racket again. And I know that sucks to say, but having the backups is just always, I think, is so important. And then you give tennis a crack after college, see how I'm going, and if that doesn't work out, then I use my degree to do what I love. I mean, sports management, I think it opens up so many doors for me. I love talking to people. I love the athlete community itself, doesn't matter what sport. So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of opportunities that I'm excited to explore beyond college and tennis.
Awesome. Don't forget, you could also bring some of your teammates to Australia as well.
They're all too scared of spiders and snakes.
Really?
They won't come. Yeah, they're like spiders, snakes, and they're like, and then I'm like, what about the beaches? They're like, no, sharks. They're hopeless.
I brought one of my Canadian teammates over, and he got straight off the plane, and I took him straight to the beach.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been, it was one of those 40-degree summer days, and he got like the devil's itch or the devil's burn. He got so sunburned that like his skin was itchy for basically the whole 3 weeks that he was in Australia.
Oh my God, he didn't put sunscreen on?
He did, but he was just so white. Like he was just completely unused to the sun. So just be careful, I guess. Be responsible for your teammates. All right, last question for you. What would you tell young athletes in Australia who are thinking about going to college, but who might not yet be convinced?
I think the biggest advice is just don't be very narrow-minded. I think that's what you find, like, you're stuck on going pro, doing this, doing that, but there's actually heaps of like steps to getting there, and they forget about the steps. Like college can be a step. Just because you go to college, it doesn't mean that you won't go pro. And a lot of people, I think, get confused with that. They're like, oh, if you go the college route, you're not going to go pro. Like, look at Jen Brady. She did it. A lot of people have done it.
I think it's like 10%. It's like 10% of the top 300 players for both men and women have played in college before. So, I agree. I don't know where that idea comes from, that it's one or the other.
Yeah, and I think like reaching out, looking into it, and especially now there's a lot more people trying to pitch it. I feel like when I was younger, it wasn't really talked about. A lot of coaches didn't like the idea. They thought, oh no, you just got to keep training, you got to go pro straight up. And now I feel like it needs to be spoken about more. I've even got coaches who have been to college and are now coaching, and they're telling their story, trying to convince kids to go to college, and I think that's so awesome. So yeah, I think if anything, it's just not being very narrow-minded, having heaps of options. And like, you could go to college and it might not be the school for you, but then what's the worst that can happen? You transfer to another school and it could be the best experience of your life, or you just come home and you start where you would have started before. Like, it's nothing bad can really happen from giving it a shot.
Absolutely. Maddison Ricardo, thank you very much for your time. You've been a great guest. This was the Thrill of the Chase podcast, brought to you by Wagner&Woolf Elite College Sports Recruitment. I am Harrison Devonish-Mears. If you are interested in joining hundreds of our athletes across the United States who are competing at the college level, you can message me on Instagram at Harrison Athlete Management. I'll see you next time.